This is Ed Trice, and this is my program, Omnia Obtorque Montor. And right now it's looking at scramble number 2. Just thought I'd show everyone what it was my program does as it goes through a solve. You can see up here in the top left, first thing it does is reads the external stickers color file, and this is what the scrambled cube looks like. Initially it looks like 11 centers are correct. 18 would be correct if you count staging on opposite sides, and just about every other category here is zeros. It produces some sort of evaluation function score, which is always shown on the far right. In this case, I load a database into the RAM buffer as a hash table that solves all the centers on opposite sides, two opposite sides only. The rest of the cube is entirely black. But it also will rotate the centers on each of the 6 faces. So for example, it will have the white on top, yellow on bottom, the rest of the cube black, just the centers, and put white on each of the 6 faces. It will also do the same thing with blue and green and orange and red. So this output here is just telling me before this break in the action, this is the top and bottom, then it does left and right, 6 turns, 6 different rotations, and then it does front and back. So the objective is to solve 2 centers on opposite sides, doesn't care which 2 or which orientation. And this takes, looks like 2 minutes and 40 seconds to find the first solution. This depth 18, this is what drives me crazy. Obviously it's not depth 18, it's depth 12. It's adding 6 to the output because it knows it's probing a 6-turn database. However, it's probing it not as a solutions table, but as a pruning table. So the depth number here is being reported as if it's a solutions table, but that's not correct. So you see, it doesn't have any nodes, really. It says 1 node in depth 1, but that's kind of a misnomer, or depth 0. There's no nodes, which means it hasn't found any move sequence that leads to a solution where 2 sides have centers being solved. And here's the first solution that pops up. And the other thing I figured out is you can always solve 2 opposite sides centers in 12 moves. There's always a solution. Every single scramble I find, there's a 12-move solution for any arbitrary oppositely solved centers. But in this case, it keeps looking for additional improvements. And you can see this first solution, 31 centers are correctly solved, 42 mixed centers, that's what you guys would call stage centers, are solved. And as you go further to the right, these are terms that are less valuable in the evaluation function. The least valuable of all is getting the corners correct, which is pretty much ignored at this stage. But you go from 31 correct to 34 correct centers with this different move sequence here. And you notice the node count is pretty small, considering this is 3 minutes and 25 seconds in. It's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So it's only examined 29 million positions in 3 minutes. That's actually not correct. There's only 29 million solutions that involve 2 oppositely solved centers. So it's only going to count a node when it passes through the pruning mechanism. So all those other nodes that it generates, it really doesn't even evaluate as a node. So that's why the node count looks so low. So it completes depth 12 in 37 minutes. And the best solution has 34 correct centers, 42 mix or stage centers, and nothing else solved. So it's going to feed this into the next stage. The next stage I try and solve, looks like it found another one. Yeah, it found another improvement. 36 correct centers, 44 mixed or stage centers. Is it still going here? Oh yeah, look at that. Looks like it's going to depth 13 here. That could explain why it was taking so long. I didn't even notice this. Yeah, so it finished depth 12 and decided to do depth 13. I was completely unaware. Wow. Yeah, so it took 24 hours to complete depth 13. And it found 39 correct centers, 46 of which are staged. So yeah, it got a chunk of the cube done by going that extra depth. Alright. So that took 13 moves. That's the interim solution so far. And now what it does, now it's going to generate ghost cubes with the center solved on 4 faces, with pairs of centers on opposite sides. Now here I only did 6 rotations again, but I guess technically probably all 24 should be loaded into the hash table. There should be 24 different permutations, or I should say rotations possible at this point. I'm going to have to look into that. Anyway, again, the depth number here is off. This should be depth 11. It's adding 5 because I only have room in the hash table to go to depth 5 here. And the reason of that is because there's many more entries when there's 4 centers solved. You got to remember, I don't include duplicates, and there's a lot of duplicates when there's only 2 opposite sides with centers solved. Okay. First solution here has 48 correct centers. It staged all 54 of the other centers. Of course, that always happens when you solve 4 centers. Got picked up 2 middle edges. I started moving the value of middle edges up in the evaluation function because one of the things I'm going to do is solve corners simultaneously with the centers and then get middle edges. So any middle edges I could pick up here, I have the program try to hang on to. Forget what the stopping criteria is here, actually. Picked up 2 middle edges, 2 middle edges, a third middle edge here. Okay, so it looks like the stopping criteria was just getting to the start of depth 13. So finished depth 12. Solve. It almost got all the centers. Probably you can solve all the centers in 25 or 26 moves, I would imagine. The next phase is going to try and solve all the centers and the corner simultaneously. So it loads into the RAM buffer 6 moves deep all the ways that you can solve the centers and the corners with these centers in fixed locations. In other words, it does no more rotations. It says, okay, you've got all these centers solved. Finish the cube in this orientation. And this took a long time. This took 13 hours to get to depth 14. And this is why I had to stop the program. Here, again, yet another bug. There's no exit criteria. It will just keep searching. I looked through the code. It found a slight improvement. It found some additional middle edge. This green and white middle edge wasn't in the previous solution up here. See, there's kind of like an orange and yellow. And it's just going to keep searching forever. I forgot to put a stopping criteria in the program here. So I had to write down all the moves, take a screenshot of where the colors are, put this into my scrambled cube colors file. Now I'm going to have to relaunch the program. And this is what has been plaguing me throughout the contest. Every now and then, either the program would terminate too quickly, find the first solution it encountered, and then the next phase just would never complete. Or, in this case, it's reached its goal, and I don't have an exit criterion in the search. It just searches forever until the cube is solved. So I've had to constantly go back and tweak the code, and I'm going to have to do that here and restart. But I figured I'd show you guys what the program does. I mean, it's some powerful pattern recognition in here, but it just takes far too long doing it the way I'm doing it. I'm going to have to switch to the IDA star search instead of doing a single agent search, depth first search, the way I'm doing it right now. Okay, well, that's it. This has been kind of long and probably boring for some of you, but that's how my program works, or should I say how it doesn't work.